Thank you. Um, Hi everyone. Thanks for coming along. I want to start by saying, first of all, um, I don't really see the different aspects of my art production as separate. So the writing, the curating, and the making are all intertwined. And one thing very much leads to another. And I'll come to that in just a minute. I'm just going to give you a very quick flash through of recent books. This is my new book. It's literally just out, Mirror, Mirror, the Reflective Surface in Contemporary Art. I see we have Graham, who's in the audience, and he's also one of the artists in the book. So hello to you. We'll talk. We're gonna talk about these things in depth in part two. But I just want everyone to kind of just get a little overview because you might be able to, if you happen to be in an art library or something like that. This book, In League with Devils, is a current publication that's specifically about the last 10 years of my art practice. And most of the talk today is going to be based on that. This was for a museum in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. And that show traveled then to Maine and New York, and then to Vane Gallery in Newcastle, for any of you who know the North. So we're going to be looking at this work. And it has a very interesting introduction by Stephen Fry, who's an actor, but he's also an author. Many people don't know that, but he's written a lot about the classical world and mythology, and he had a really nice take on what I'm doing, and that was great. So that's in there. The book prior to Mirror Mirror was called The Word is Art, which was focused on text-based pieces. Prior to that was Nature Mort, contemporary artists reinvigorate the still life tradition, and the cover was a lenticular cover. So as you moved it, it did that, which was pretty cool. And this book also, almost all of the books that I do for Thames and Hudson have a traveling exhibition. And sadly, this was the last traveling exhibition in Europe proper. So the show went to 3 museums in continental Europe, and then it came back, and then it went to the US, and it's just the works in that show have literally just come back about a month ago. So it's been touring for a long time. And it is now much, much easier to send work to America than it is to Europe. I was talking about before with Brexit. I mean, it's just almost impossible. To the point that we are actually working on a touring exhibition of The Word is Art that is going to go to China. It's actually going to be easier to take that show to China. We cannot resolve a lot of the issues at the moment in terms of taking work from this country, which is outside of the EU, into the EU without paying a massive amount of VAT that's held until the works leave. It's a complicated system. I will probably go into that a bit more next time. The book before all of that was called The Art of Not Making, the New Artist-Artisan Relationship. And some of you may have seen this. This was a very influential book. It's the first book talking about contemporary artists using fabrication and how we make things by using the hands, the skills of other people. And again, I will go into that. But a lot of my work is manufactured by other people. Obviously, the glass work that I make, I don't blow glass, I design it, but I work with the crafts people to realize those pieces. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. Prior to that were my 2 books on installation, art installation of the new millennium, and installation art. And this was the very first book on installation art. And again, I will go into this in quite a bit of detail. This was in the 90s. Maybe a lot of you weren't even born then. So, but in between, there was this book, Hidden Histories, 20th Century Male Same-Sex Lovers in the Visual Arts, which was a book that accompanied an exhibition that I curated for the New Art Gallery in Walsall, just outside of Birmingham. And it was the first institutional show pretty much anywhere in the world that's very clearly focused on the relationship between various what we would call gay male artists and their work and also their relationships. So it is a thread that you will see that goes through my work, but sometimes it's very abstract, very conceptual. So moving on from installation, we're going to go to a piece that was the impetus for my new book, the Mirror book, the book about reflections. So I was asked. This is in a triennale in Palm Springs, in Southern California. And the pieces were to be placed into the desert. And that was really interesting. And it also meant there were a lot of possibilities, but also a lot of things that we had to do to make sure we didn't impact on the environment in any permanent way. And that was very important in terms of placing the work. And this project was in 2017, which was the genesis for that book. These books often take 5 years or more. And it was about a year and a half into Donald Trump's first presidency. And he was kind of crazy. And as we know, he's only gotten worse. I don't even know what to say. And it was the first time that people spoke of an age of narcissism, and that Donald Trump, was this ultimate narcissist, and that there was no way to connect with someone like that. So when I got invited to make this piece in the States, I decided to do this project, which is called The Pool of Narcissus. And for those of you who don't know the classical story, Narcissus was a shepherd, a Greek shepherd, and he was apparently incredibly handsome. But as with most people in the ancient world, he had never seen his own reflection, because the only people who had mirrors were very, very rich people. And we're going to come to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about that with another work in just a minute. So he'd never seen himself. And then he goes to take a drink by a pool, and he looks into the pool and he sees his face, he sees his reflection, and he falls in love with himself. So it's slightly more complicated with the nymph Echo, but I won't go into that right now. But he is so in love with himself, rather like Donald Trump, that he sits by the pool and he wastes away and he dies. He can't tear himself away from his own image. And so this is an image of someone standing, just at the edge of the pool, and you can see their shadow as they're about to look into the mirror. And the mirror is also reflecting the sky. You can see the clouds, you can see the sun, and here we see the mountain behind, as well as the shrubbery, which we saw a few minutes ago. And it really also was like a mirage that was kind of just floating in the desert. And the nature of this triennale, you had a map and you walked around in the desert looking for the artworks. So you never really knew what you were going to get. And so this was reflecting the blue of the sky. And it was, for me, a starting point for looking at, what was happening in America, and how narcissism was really affecting, how his narcissism was affecting the country. And then, of course, within, the next 7 or 8 years, we've reached a point where narcissism is just completely everywhere. And the final chapter of the Mirror book is all selfies, because that's the new mirror. Everyone is taking pictures of themselves, selfies, and posting them. So we reached a kind of an incredibly quick narcissistic place. And what interests me as well in terms of the taking selfies, a lot of people take selfies in front of art. And a lot of the art that we see in the mirror book, where there is a reflective surface, you often will see young kids taking pictures of themselves in front of the artworks. And you'll see that online. It's a very simple search. Perhaps the most well-known place for people to take selfies is in Kusama's mirror rooms, which is also in the book. We'll see that next week. I mean, in the next talk. And there's like a million, or more than a million, different photos of people in those rooms, taking pictures of themselves. And so, it's not just Donald Trump who's become narcissistic, or become the focus of his own kind of scripted movie. He's able to make his movie real. Most people are not. But I wanted to kind of just start that kind of conversation. This final image, you can see that's actually me taking a photo, and it's me taking a photo at night. And what you see is the moon in the center of the image and a few stars. So it even worked as a mirror at night. It was quite amazing how it reflected the viewers to the piece. Continuing along the political line, I do want to say this. Prior to Donald Trump, I really didn't make what would be called political work in that sort of general sense. Now, all queer work is political. I mean, I started making work in the 80s during the AIDS epidemic, and everyone who was making work that was queer focused was obviously making a political statement about trying to save our lives. So it's not that I haven't made political work. It's just that it was never necessarily the focus. And even with the Pool of Narcissus, that is not an obviously political work. It clearly is a very minimalist piece, but it can be read in a very political way.